Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining right on time. If you could just try and let us know if you can hear us, so that way we know, and then we will wait a couple of minutes for everyone to join. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. We will start now that we have a few participants that have joined. Thank you so much for joining this webinar. If you have any issues technical where you can't hear us or anything, please, you can use the chat. We are thrilled to host this series of success stories about DRT, which is demand responsive transport or on-demand. On the very operational side, before we start, just know that everyone is muted. You can post your questions directly in the chat. We will take some time while we present the slides also to answer your questions as much as we can. The webinar is also recorded, so you will receive the recording right after. So in order to tell you this story of Filéo, we have two experts with us from Padam Mobility that I will present right now. Nicolas Alfonsi is head of strategic account at Padam Mobility. He has worked in the mobility world from operator to software provider, and he's now responsible for the IDFM account, which means Île-de-France Mobilité, so the Paris region. He has closely overseen the launch of Filéo, which we will talk about today, last September. And we also have with us in the room with me, Clément Jouve, who is a customer relationship manager. He was responsible for the operational launch of Filéo, as well as many other IDFM territories over the years. Also, he's responsible for the countries of France, Switzerland, and Canada at Padam. This experience has made him an expert in handling specific requests and accompanying clients in their rollout projects. So now I will let them take over to tell you more about the Filéo story.
Thanks, Chloe. Hi, everyone. To introduce this webinar, first, let me give you some context about our company. So Padam is part of Siemens Mobility Software Unit. This software unit develops a suite of tools relevant to create the basis for an optimal ecosystem for mobility. Yeah, you can pass the slide. So it's a complete suite from train planning system to mass and ticketing. So PADAM is part of the mass segment in the middle of this slide as on-demand responsive transport and paratransit software editor. So we are a software editor. We don't have a call center or people driving buses. Some figures now about PADAM. So we are a French company based in Paris with more than 90 people working there. The company was created more than 10 years ago. It generated around 40 million trips since the beginning and the creation of PADAM. And we have now more than 350 services using PADAM software, not only in France, but also in Europe and North America. So today we'll talk about the project Filéo, which is in Paris area. We work with the PTA, which is called IDFM, Île-de-France Mobilité. And this project, so the DRT in the Paris area, TLIDFM, generates more than 1 million trips per year in this region of France. Before deep diving in this subject, Clément, can you tell us a bit more maybe about the use cases that we cover and the kind of service that we can implement in our software?
Yeah, thank you, Nicolas. So at PADAM, we have 3 different levels when we deploy a DRT. The first level is the use case. So why are we making this DRT line? Some different use cases can be corporate shuttle, airport shuttles, to allow people to go to an airport, to go to a corporate companies. Sometimes some companies are located in outskirts of cities, so the company needs a transportation way to go from the city center to the company. We as well operate off-peak hours DRTs, which means we have standard bus lines working during the peak hours, and the DRT will replace them during the off-peak hours when there is less demand. We operate first and last mile DRTs. Sometimes people will take a train line or a bus line, and then to reach exactly their home, they will need a final mile to go from the train station to their town, and so this is where DRT can be a solution. We operate paratransit solutions for people with special mobility needs, sometimes for old people or for people with difficulties to walk, with disabilities. We operate in rural areas and in peri-urban areas where there is a bit less demand than in city centers. And we operate autonomous shuttles where, for example, an ongoing project, an ongoing deployment in Geneva. The second level is the service model. How do you want your DRT line to work? The most used model is the free floating. You define an area with, like, for example, 300 stops, and then you can go from all the stops to all the other stops within the area. So it's a model with very few constraints that is very appreciated by people in rural areas. And for the virtual service, I will talk about it more in detail because it's one of the models we have in Filéo, and the other models are very less used, so I won't detail them today. The final level is the type of service. For example, we have door-to-door. It's used especially for people with special mobility needs in the context of paratransit, so we can pick up and drop off people at their exact addresses. We have virtual stops and we have PT station to link the DRT to other transportation ways.
If you have any question or if something is unclear, don't hesitate to use the chat, just as a reminder. So this is what our interfaces looks like. So in the left-hand side of this slide, you can see the interfaces dedicated mostly to the riders, travelers, whatever you call it. So we have a dedicated app to book your ride, to make your reservation. We have also a website to do exactly the same with the same UX. And we also have a similar interface for the call center that help us to be able to take a reservation for another passenger. We also have the back office interface and a performance dashboard based on the Power BI to get and show key indicators, KPIs on real time, of course, to monitor your service the best way. And the last interface is our driver app. So we have a dedicated driver app that helps the driver to get his route, his journey with the different stops that he has to do on his service. So the core, let's say the core value of our system is the algorithm, because the algorithm will calculate the route of the vehicle. We have three different kind of algorithm. The first one is the online algorithm that works directly when the user will select and try to get a reservation. Then we have the continuous algorithm that runs all the time to rearrange the rides bookings for a better optimization. And we have the last one, the offline algorithm, which takes more time because we will reorganize all the booking of the day. So this offline algorithm operates outside of service hours, and it can reorganize to get the best of performance we can get from the algorithm. Yeah. So Padam is a software company. We generate code lines, but we also provide some studies. So we have a dedicated team working on feasibility studies and performance audits. So the feasibility studies happens for the pre-launch. So we do some diagnosis, some simulation to work on the different service design that we can implement. So it can help us to, for example, calculate the number of vehicles that will be efficient for a certain territory. And then when the project is launched, we also do kind of the same studies, but to work on the performance. For example, if a territory is getting too many bookings and can be saturated, we do this performance analysis to get the best parameters and organization of the service to get the best from it. This team also can create some customized dashboard, because we know that sometimes PTA requires some special KPIs, so our team can do that. And we also can provide carbon footprint analysis. Last but not least, over the past years, working on tool transition, we developed a process, a special approach, because we know that changing from a software to another can create disruptions, confusion, or resistance. So our approach is mostly based on the involvement of the stakeholders really early in the project. So our approach is mostly based on that, and we also have a dedicated team, the customer success management, who will ensure to seamless transition through training, hypercare launch phases, which is very important, and on-site presence when it's possible.
So just before we deep dive into this story, we have a question that is, I think, more for Clément. That is, how late can a customer change a pre-booked trip?
So this is a parameter that can be defined for each territory differently. It can be sometimes like only the limit will be the day before at 5 p.m., for example. Sometimes it will be 10 minutes before the departure of the trip, sometimes until last minute. So on Filéo, it's almost until last minute before departure. I think it's 10 minutes before departure.
Okay, and there's a complementary question. It's also about this. I think, can a customer change his trip? Can they modify their trips?
Some
Oh, no, sorry, it's not change. It's chain trips.
Mm.
So he said home to clinic, clinic to shop. Do you see what this means?
Okay, so
Yeah.
the final user can make two bookings. The first one home to clinic, then the second one clinic to shops. If he needs to go to the clinic first, then to the shops, it will be mandatory to make two bookings. If he wants to go directly from home to shops, he can as well do it. And if he needs to take two different DRTs, because for example, home to shops will be a forbidden trip. Sometimes it exists. It's not possible right now to make to take one booking and take two DRTs included in only one booking. So if the case is the user wants to go to the clinic first and to the shops, two bookings are mandatory.
Okay. I hope it's clear. If you have more complementary question, we can also answer them later. I think we're good.
Okay, great. So now let us tell you a story about Paris area, TAD-IDFM, and Filéo. So this is what population density looks like in Paris area, for those who don't know. There are 12 million people living here, which represent around 19% of the population. And as you can see, the population is really concentrated in the center and the inner suburbs. On the contrary, outer suburbs have different kind of urbanism, smaller towns, even villages, like you can see on the bottom of the slide with this picture, which was taken in Vallée de Chevreuse. And low density is often synonymous of less public transport or sometimes no public transport. And that's why IDFM, so the PTA of Paris area, created TAD-IDFM, which is the DRT for the Paris area, to fill in the gap where in places where there is a transport demand and there is no offers or not enough offers. So they have created a regional system because DRT already existed in these spaces, but through multiple operators working separately. So the idea was to centralize all the booking into a single platform and also mutualize all they can, for example, the call center. Because before there were multiple call centers, now there is one taking all the bookings and reservations. And this helped to scale up operations, of course, and the service quality. So Padam, sorry? No, okay. So Padam was the first company to win the public tender. There was a public tender starting in 2019, which was an experiment at first. And then the public tender was renewed in 2022. And the service kept growing over the year. And we have now more than 60 areas covered, including the famous Filéo, our today's big focus. And Filéo was one of the last territories that we implemented because it's a really, really special project. We will tell you all in details with Clément right after. And yes, maybe just before we'll see the different use cases that are implemented on all over the area of TAD-IDFM, and then we'll deep dive on Filéo. So Clément, floor is yours.
Thank you, Nicolas. Among the 60 territories we have with Île-de-France Mobilité, we have many different use cases and different service designs. The first one is the night service that we call sometimes divergent. The concept is we only have one starting point where everyone is picked up, and then we will go serve stops within an area with predefined stops. For example, it's really used at night. Many people come from Paris, take that train and go to the suburbs, but train stations don't serve the whole territory. So sometimes they need to do the last mile with another offer, which is the DRT. So once they arrive at their train station in the suburbs, they get out of the train, they get in the vehicle, assuming the night service, and they indicate their final stop to the driver. So the driver will tick the stop, and then Padam will create a journey to only serve the demanded stops. It allows people to be able to come back at night, even in the smallest towns, so they can go home faster and safer. We as well serve healthcare facilities. Many hospitals are served, and during the pandemic, for example, we adapted the offer to serve many vaccination centers. So everyone, including people in little towns, old people, or people with difficulties to walk, were able to go to the vaccination centers. We do the first and last kilometer, as I talked about before. We're present in peri-urban areas, in business areas, rural areas, and we serve shopping areas in the Paris outskirts. There are many little cities with even smaller towns around them. So we connect these territories together by linking the little towns to the city center of the small city, where you have most of the time a train station and the shopping area. Now let's talk about Filéo. Filéo was one of the last territories we launched with Île-de-France Mobilité in September 2025. It has been a long project and a very difficult project because of the number of people taking it every day, almost 1,000 people on a daily basis, and many different lines with different service designs, and a lot of stakeholders. I will talk about it more in detail right after this. In Charles de Gaulle Airport, we have 91,000 employees working in 700 different companies, and the airport is open 24/7. During the day, train lines, many bus lines are going to the airport because we have high demand from employees and from people going there to take their flights. But at night, as there is less flights, there is less ways to reach the airport. Less demand, but still, we need to, the employees need to go to the airport and to have a solution, a transport solution to reach the airport and to work. So we still need to cover the whole territory, because people working in the airport live in the 3 departments nearby, in more than 30 towns around the airport, and the whole economy of the territory relies on the airport. So we need to bring them to the airport, and it wouldn't be possible with standard bus lines because it would be difficult and extremely expensive to cover the whole territory. To detail how we launched Filéo with Padam, I will talk about 3 main points. The first one, how to serve the airport, the specificity of the service demand and the geography. The second main point will be how to cover 100% of the booking requests with a limited budget. And the third one would be how to facilitate the transition to a new tool for all the stakeholders. So first, standard bus lines wouldn't be efficient enough to serve a very broad territory for these specific purposes. As I said, it's a broad territory, 34 towns, 3 departments, more than 300 stops to serve. Journeys can make until 30 kilometers around the airport. As well, the demand is very specific. Even if the line is accessible to everyone, it's designed for night workers with fluctuating schedules. And according to the season of the year, the hour of the night, the day of the week, we'll have more or less workers going to the airport at different times. So we need a transportation way that adapts all the time to the demand. For this, DRT seems to be perfect compared to standard bus line, because a standard bus line only serves stops arranged a certain way, while DRT covers the whole area. This is what we can see on this picture. All the pink stops at the bottom of the picture are the stops of one zone. So with a standard bus line, it will be very difficult to serve all the stops, while with the DRT, as it covers an area, it's possible. And so we can bring people from all this area to the airport. Then the DRT makes detours to serve stops only if needed, which means if I just finished my shift at the airport, it's 4 in the morning and I want to go back home. If I book my DRT for Le Blanc-Ménil, for example, as we see on the bottom of the picture, and nobody else make a booking on the same vehicle, then I will go directly from the airport to Le Blanc-Ménil, no detour made. So of course, for the operator, it's less fuel and less driving hours, but for the passenger as well, it's an advantage because I won't have to make unnecessary detour, and I will go home faster, and I will be able to reach home and sleep earlier. Finally, DRT allows a better flexibility of the offer, because with the booking system, people won't rely on a flyer, for example, or on the classic informations we have at the bus stop sometimes. They will every day make their bookings. So if we change the offer, it will be almost not visible for the final user. And of course, the final user will receive notifications of his exact departure time and exact arrival time, which will allow him to always be sure of where he has to be at what time, and still we can adapt the offer every day if needed. Finally, so we have more than 300 stops that are served, departures every 30 minutes on each line. And thanks to the grouping algorithm, 100% of users travel 41% of the entire offer, which means sometimes, for example, some lines can assure some common journeys. So to avoid to use 2 vehicles if it's not needed, the algorithm will work and group people on only one of these 2 vehicles. So one of the vehicles will stay put in the parking and not make 1 mile. So it's an economy of fuel and of driving hours. Thanks to the algorithm, so 41% of the entire offer is enough to assure 100% of the journeys booked by the people. And finally, we are able to have a different timetable every day of the week without it being visible by the final users. We currently have 26,000 journeys a month, 100% of bookings are accepted, which means nobody, no final user trying to book can finally end up without any proposal. There are always a solution to go to work and come back to work, and the whole territory stays connected 24/7. The second challenge was how to limit the number of resources to optimize costs. The key is to properly organize the services and to optimize the schedules through the algorithm. So as I said, the biggest job of the algorithm is to group people. We have around 1,000 bookings per night. So the goal is to distribute them amongst a few vehicles and not all the vehicles, so we can reduce the number of kilometers made by the vehicles. As well, we can reduce the number of drivers and the number of vehicles. So for this, we organize the bookings amongst the vehicles, and we try to sequence the pickups and drop-offs the best way we could, the more logical way we could. So we reduce the number of kilometers. For this, we have 2 kinds of bus lines on Filéo. Virtual lines, they work exactly like a standard bus line, but the stops that are not booked are canceled. Which means if the bus needs to make a detour to go serve a stop, and the stop is not booked, then there won't be any detour made. The same way, if my complete bus line is 20 kilometers long, but the final stop, the furthest stop in the airport is not booked, then I will stop the shift before, which means maybe I will do only 10, 15 kilometers instead of 20, reducing the number of kilometers and the hours of driving. The second bus line is the zonal line. So we serve areas, and only the stops booked amongst the areas will be served in the best order possible. This is what we have on the picture on the right. So if you remember the image before we had with all the pink stops in an area, there was almost 100 stops. Only the ones that are booked here are visible, so from 0 to 8. So 9 stops have been booked. And every time there has been a new booking at this time for this shift, the algorithm rearranged the pickups and drop-offs sequencing to have the most logical journey. So you can see the driver will start at 0, go from 0 to 8 to pick up people, and then we'll drop them off on the 9th, 10th, and 11th stops in the airport area. Padam Mobility algorithms work every day to define the best groupings and optimize journeys. Thanks to the algorithm, we have 6 people on board in average per shift on Filéo, which is equivalent to a little bus line. As well, it's a big economy. More than 2,000 hours have been avoided thanks to optimization in March 2026. At the beginning, when we opened the shifts of March, more than 6,000 hours were planned to realize the whole offer, and finally, only 4,000 hours have been needed to assure all the bookings. 95% of trips are shared, which means 95% of people taking a Filéo DRT are not alone in the vehicle, and so no necessary detour and no empty bus. The third challenge, which was maybe the most difficult to face, was the very sensitive political context. Padam is not the first tool to work with Filéo. There have been other tools before. And in the past, a transition between 2 previous tools was really complex. Final users struggled to use the new tool. And so some of them were not able to make proper bookings to reach the airport. And I want to remind you that Filéo DRT is the only way to reach the airport at night. So if people can't book, it means they can't go to work, and they can't go to the airport and they can't work. So it was mandatory to well prepare the transition to keep the existing final users and avoid issues. And the moment we launched Filéo, it was late September 2025. It was a few months before the mayor's elections in France. So many local politics from the departments around the airport wanted to keep an eye on the transition and to make sure it happens the best, so people living in the towns they run would be able to go to work. So these previous transitions that was not really well managed caused a lot of stress for the operators. This is why we wanted to reassure them with Padam. For this, we provided a thorough support to avoid any mistake. We had, for example, shared documents, so we can have real-time feedback every day from the operator which is Keolis. As well, we did simulations. It was really important. We took some bookings, some real bookings that have been made with the previous tool. We put them in the Padam Mobility algorithm to check how our algorithm would react with these real bookings, how the algorithm would group them, and the number of kilometers that would be necessary in our tool to realize these bookings. And so these simulations on different nights have been successful. And thanks to this, it was a big step for us to convince the politics, the operators, and the region that Padam Mobility would perfectly fit to realize the Filéo offer. We have done on-site trainings for drivers and operators. We have made a 1-month dry run. We gave Keolis access to a dedicated training interface so they can make bookings themselves, to try the booking app and the booking website. They had access to the management interface so they can modify the booking if they wanted, check everything, and of course a dedicated driver app so drivers can get used to the Padam Mobility app and know everything before the relaunch of the territory. Finally, we were present on site to help during the 2 first nights of the project run to accompany the drivers and accompany the operators. We were with them on the Keolis offices and sometimes in the bus to help them to deal with the new environment. It was a sensitive transition as well because the population going to work at the airport is a very specific population, struggling sometimes with informatic tools. Many final users have difficulties to use the internet, and some of them have difficulties to read French or understand French. So it was mandatory for them to understand everything to be able to go to work. And so the change of booking website was a real challenge for them to face. We need to organize them, not only the operators, but as well the final users, so they know exactly how to use our tool and will be able to take autonomously their bookings. In cooperation with the region, Ile-de-France Mobilité, with Relief, a communication agency, and with Keolis, the operator, users have been informed of the change thanks to workshops on the airport and thanks to email communications. We adapted some features to reassure users with specific messages. While discussing with local politics, they told us the struggle of some final users to speak French, to read French. So we decided with them of very specific messages and wordings to put on our booking website and app and the booking application, so people would understand them better with very simple wordings and simple words, so everyone could take their bookings autonomously. As well, we organized meetings with local politics to share information. And finally, when we were on site the 2 first nights of the launch, we were able to talk directly to final users to tell them how to download the application, how to use it, and to inform them of the change. Thanks to all these actions, we had a positive feedback. We have made a meeting with all the stakeholders, IDFM, Ile-de-France Mobilité, and Keolis, the operator, a few months after the launch, and they told us that all the interfaces of Padam were very easy to use, which was a success for us because, of course, sometimes it can be difficult for people to change of an app, especially when they know the previous tool, when they have been knowing the previous tools for years. As well, we noticed a decrease of no-shows and commercial kilometers. So it decreased by 45% of commercial kilometers and by 62% of no-shows compared to the previous tools. So no-shows, it's when someone doesn't show up to his pickup stop without having canceled the booking before. So it makes unnecessary detours for the vehicles, and it increases the number of kilometers. So this is something that we're trying to avoid. And so thanks to Padam, they were able to reduce this number. As well, we had a higher number of passengers and a very good rating, 4.8 out of 5, which means final users adopted the new tool and really liked it, because after 7 months of run, we now have this rating of 4.8 out of 5. Today, we have 26,000 trips per month. This number is still evolving. The 3 last weeks were the most crowded weeks since the launch with Padam. We have a 95% pulling rate. On all the territories we have with Padam Mobility, the average is 68%, so it's very good for Filéo. Almost 6 passengers per vehicle per hour, equivalent to a little bus line. And today, 46% of final users on Filéo are able to make their bookings themselves. As I said, it's a population that is struggling to use internet and sometimes to understand French. So a lot of them go through the call center to take their bookings. But it was 36% in October 2025, and now 46% take their bookings themselves on the website or app, and this number is still growing, which means final users find the booking website easy to use and we are proud of it. For the future, we are currently in discussions with the region and with Keris to serve more municipalities, so people who today have to take their cars to go directly to the airport or to go to another town with a Filéo stop soon should have a way to go to the airport directly with Filéo. To conclude, I would like to thank Filéo, sorry, not Filéo, Keris, the operator, and IDFM, Ile-de-France Mobilité, the region, with whom we worked, because it was a very complex project and a real challenge for us because of the size of the territory and the number of stakeholders. And we had a very good collaboration with Ile-de-France Mobilité and Keris in this project. We were all very implicated, and we wanted to face all the challenges I talked about before. And thanks to this, we were able to make the transition the smoothest possible. And today the territory is running. We have good numbers, and users are able to use it. So yeah, we are very proud of the collaboration we had.
Thank you, Clément and Nicolas. So this is the end of the main presentation. I have received one question here from the question chart, which is, what are the main steps taken for the whole project and how long did it take? Maybe Nicolas, it's a bit more for you. You're mute, yeah.
Sorry, the question was, how long did it take?
Yeah, and what were the steps taken for the project?
Okay, so the project was quite long because it lasts more than a year. I think it was yeah, more than a year, definitely. And this is why the reason why it was so long is because the transition was really stressful for all the stakeholders. So the key point in this project was studies and simulations, because at one time of the project, we thought it was really comfortable to make some studies with real data, and see what it looks like with PADAM, and that really helped us to accelerate the project, because it was facts. I mean, we had the demand, we implemented in PADAM, we had some results, and we saw that the results were good. So that really helped us. So once again, study simulation really yeah, keys to the success of this project.
Perfect. Thank you, Nicolas. And we have another one, which is, do you have a rule for how many vehicles and drivers you need to have on standby to cope with unexpected changes in customer demand?
So it depends on the on the size of the territories. Here on Filéo we have theories that evolve really fast. With, as I said, like the 3 last weeks, we broke records every week. So we would advise to have like maybe 10% of vehicles on standby in addition to this, to the existing flows. So people can adjust the offer and can add some more vehicles if needed, if more people want to take the DRT.
So the rule is about 10%.
Yeah.
Okay. I hope it's clear. We saw your other question, John, and we will answer you by email for this, as it's a very technical one. I have a last one in the question file, which is, how is the performance followed on this project, and how the project is adapted over time thanks to performance KPIs, I guess. And is that you, Nicolas or Clément?
Yeah, so we have a Power BI report with more than 60 charts with many data in every chart to follow the demand. We can check where people are going, what is the demand, sometimes the request that didn't lead to for no etc. As well, we follow a saturation rate, means if we see that there are not enough vehicles to assure an offer and not enough seats in a vehicle. So we have many numbers, so operators can track the data, can know if they need to extend the offer, to extend the territory, to add some more vehicles, on the contrary, sometimes to change the design of a line.
And I will add that in terms of project management, we have a dedicated meetings. During this meeting, we have an overview on every service, and we identify which are the services that are well performing or less performing, and then if we see that we have red flags, we launch our toolbox. So it's composed of simulation studies and whatever to try to get the best of every service.
All right, and I think we've gone through all the questions. Thank you to our two experts and to everyone involved. We just want to remind you that we have another webinar coming up about EXO. So we crossed the Atlantic in Montreal in Canada to talk about a very successful story of on-demand in the suburbs of Montreal. If you are interested, it's in 1 month, the 27th of May at 5 p.m. Otherwise, if you want any contact with us about any question, call, or demo, don't hesitate to contact Nicolas, which will be happy to answer it. Thanks, everyone, and we are off for the day. I will end the event. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks.